Deep in the industrial heartland of Germany stood a series of great dams, massive walls of concrete holding back enormous reservoirs of water. These dams were vital to the German war effort, providing water and power to the factories that produced the weapons of war. They were also considered virtually invulnerable to attack, protected by their massive construction, defended against the obvious forms of assault. They seemed beyond the reach of any conventional attack. To breach these dams, to unleash the destructive power of the water they held back, would require solving a problem that seemed almost impossible. And the solution that was found was one of the most ingenious and audacious weapons of the entire war, a bomb that could bounce across the surface of the water like a stone skipped across a pond. This is the story of the bouncing bomb and of the daring raid that used it to strike at targets thought to be beyond reach. This is a story about ingenuity in the face of a seemingly impossible problem, about the creative thinking that found a way to attack targets that conventional methods could not touch. It is a story about the marriage of brilliant invention and extraordinary courage, of a weapon conceived through genius and delivered through skill and bravery. And it is a story about one of the most famous and daring raids of the entire war, an operation that demonstrated what could be achieved when ingenuity and audacity were combined in pursuit of an audacious goal. To understand the brilliance of the bouncing bomb, you have to understand the problem it was designed to solve. The great dams of the German industrial region were formidable targets, protected by their massive construction and by the defenses arrayed around them. To breach such a dam, a bomb would need to detonate against the dam wall, ideally below the waterline, where the explosion could exploit the pressure of the water to help break the structure. But delivering a bomb to exactly the right spot on the dam wall was extraordinarily difficult. The dams were defended, and the reservoirs were often protected by underwater obstacles, like torpedo nets designed to stop any conventional underwater attack on the dam. The challenge then was how to deliver a bomb to the precise spot needed to breach the dam, past the defenses and the underwater obstacles. A bomb dropped from above would be unlikely to hit the exact spot needed and would not detonate at the right depth against the dam wall. A torpedo launched at the dam would be stopped by the torpedo nets protecting it. The obvious methods of attack were thwarted by the dam's defenses and construction. What was needed was an entirely new approach, a way to deliver a bomb to the right spot that could bypass the defenses and overcome the obstacles. This was the problem that a brilliant inventor set out to solve. The solution that was devised was as ingenious as it was unconventional. The idea was to create a bomb that could bounce across the surface of the water, skipping over the protective obstacles like a stone skipped across a pond. Such a bomb, dropped at the right speed and height and given the right spin, could skip across the surface of the reservoir, bouncing over the torpedo nets and other underwater defenses until it reached the dam wall. There, it would sink against the wall and detonate at the proper depth, exploiting the water pressure to help breach the structure. It was a brilliant concept, a way to bypass the dam's defenses by skipping over them on the surface of the water. Now, we should be honest about the history here, because the bouncing bomb and the raid that used it are a real and celebrated part of the history of the war, and the story deserves to be told with accuracy. What follows is grounded in the genuine historical record of this weapon and the operation that employed it, though we will tell it as a narrative to convey its full drama. The core is true. A bouncing bomb really was developed to attack German dams, designed to skip across the water to bypass underwater defenses, and a famous raid really did use this weapon to breach major dams. The details are recounted to convey the ingenuity of the weapon and the courage of those who used it. The development of the bouncing bomb was a remarkable feat of invention and engineering. The inventor had to work out the precise conditions needed to make the bomb skip across the water. The right combination of speed, height, and spin that would allow it to bounce across the surface and reach the dam wall. This required extensive experimentation and refinement, working out the physics of the skipping motion, designing a bomb that would behave as intended. The result was a weapon of remarkable ingenuity, a bomb specifically designed to overcome the unique challenges of attacking the dams, to bypass their defenses through the clever exploitation of the skipping motion. But inventing the weapon was only part of the challenge. Delivering it required extraordinary skill and precision on the part of the air crews who would carry out the raid. The bomb had to be dropped under very specific conditions to work correctly. It had to be released at exactly the right speed, at exactly the right height above the water, at exactly the right distance from the dam. Achieving these precise conditions required flying the aircraft very low over the water at a precise speed and releasing the bomb at exactly the right moment. This was extraordinarily demanding flying, requiring great skill and nerve, carried out at night, under enemy fire, over heavily defended targets. The air crews who would carry out the raid had to train intensively to master the demanding requirements of delivering the bouncing bomb. They had to learn to fly at the very low altitude required to achieve the precise speed and height needed, to release the bomb at exactly the right moment. This was difficult and dangerous flying, pushing the limits of what was possible, requiring the crews to master techniques that left no margin for error. The training was rigorous, preparing the crews for the extraordinarily demanding task they would face, the delivery of the bouncing bomb under the most challenging of conditions. When the raid was carried out, it was an operation of extraordinary daring and skill. The air crews flew their aircraft to the German dams, penetrating enemy airspace, navigating to their targets. Then they had to execute the demanding attack, flying low over the reservoirs, achieving the precise conditions needed, releasing their bouncing bombs at exactly the right moment, all while under enemy fire. It was a feat of flying and courage of the highest order, carried out against heavily defended targets, demanding everything the crews had. The danger was immense, the margin for error non-existent, and yet the crews pressed home their attack with determination and skill, and the raid achieved a remarkable success. The bouncing bombs, delivered with precision by the skilled air crews, breached major dams, unleashing the destructive power of the water they held back. The attack succeeded in doing what had seemed almost impossible, breaching the formidable dams that had been considered virtually invulnerable. The result was significant damage, as the released water caused destruction and disruption to the German industrial region. The raid demonstrated that even targets thought to be beyond reach could be attacked successfully, given sufficient ingenuity and courage. It was a triumph of invention and audacity. The success of the raid came at a significant cost, however, as such daring operations often did. The demanding and dangerous nature of the attack, carried out at low altitude against defended targets, meant that losses were heavy. Many of the brave air crews who carried out the raid did not return, falling victim to the dangers of the operation. The cost in lives and aircraft was substantial, a sobering reminder of the price of such daring attacks. The men who carried out the raid knew the risks they faced, and many paid the ultimate price for the success they achieved. Their sacrifice was part of the cost of the remarkable achievement. What does the story of the bouncing bomb reveal about ingenuity and the solving of difficult problems? First and foremost, it demonstrates the power of creative, unconventional thinking to solve problems that seem impossible. The challenge of breaching the dams had seemed almost insurmountable through conventional means, thwarted by the dam's defenses and construction. But through creative thinking, through the unconventional idea of a bomb that could bounce across the water, a solution was found. This illustrates how the most difficult problems can sometimes be solved by thinking differently, by approaching the problem from an unexpected angle, by finding a creative solution that bypasses the obstacles that defeat conventional approaches. The story also illustrates the marriage of invention and execution, the way that a brilliant idea must be combined with skilled execution to achieve success. The bouncing bomb was a brilliant invention, but it would have been useless without the skill and courage of the air crews who delivered it. The success of the raid depended on both the ingenuity of the weapon and the skill of those who used it, on both the invention and the execution. This illustrates an important truth, that a great idea alone is not enough, that it must be combined with the skill and effort needed to put it into practice. Invention and execution together made the raid possible. Consider, too, the extraordinary courage of the air crews who carried out the raid, the men who delivered the bouncing bombs under the most demanding and dangerous conditions. They flew at the very edge of what was possible, low over the water, at precise speeds, releasing their bombs at exactly the right moment, all while under enemy fire over heavily defended targets. They knew the risks, knew that many of them would not return, and yet they pressed home their attack with determination and skill. This kind of courage, this willingness to undertake an extraordinarily dangerous mission for the sake of an important objective, represents the very best of human bravery. The air crews who carried out the raid were heroes, and their courage deserves to be remembered. There is a broader lesson here about the value of persistence and determination in solving difficult problems. The development of the bouncing bomb required extensive experimentation and refinement, the working out of the precise conditions needed to make it function. This demanded persistence, a willingness to keep working at the problem until a solution was found. The inventor did not give up in the face of the difficulty of the challenge, but persisted until the brilliant solution was achieved. This illustrates the importance of persistence and determination in overcoming difficult problems, the way that sustained effort can eventually yield a breakthrough, even when the challenge seems daunting. It is worth reflecting on the audacity of the entire enterprise, the boldness of attempting to breach the formidable dams with such an unconventional weapon. The whole endeavor, from the conception of the bouncing bomb to the execution of the raid, was an act of remarkable audacity, a willingness to attempt something that seemed almost impossible. This audacity, this willingness to attempt the difficult and the unconventional, was essential to the success of the operation. Had the planners been unwilling to attempt such a bold and unconventional approach, the dams would have remained beyond reach. The audacity of the enterprise was a key factor in its success. The story of the bouncing bomb stands as one of the most celebrated examples of ingenuity and daring from the entire war. A tale of brilliant invention and extraordinary courage combined in pursuit of an audacious goal. It demonstrated what could be achieved through creative thinking and bold execution, how even seemingly impossible challenges could be overcome given sufficient ingenuity and courage. The raid that used the bouncing bomb became famous as one of the most daring and remarkable operations of the war, a testament to the power of invention and audacity. By the end of the war, the raid that employed the bouncing bomb had taken its place among the most celebrated operations of the entire conflict, a story of ingenuity and courage that continues to inspire admiration. The weapon had achieved what had seemed almost impossible, breaching formidable dams through a brilliantly unconventional approach, and the air crews who delivered it had demonstrated extraordinary courage and skill, many at the cost of their lives. The bouncing bomb stood as a lasting testament to the power of creative thinking, the importance of skilled execution, and the extraordinary courage of those who carried out one of the most daring raids of the war. So remember the bouncing bomb, the ingenious weapon designed to skip across the water like a stone, to bypass the defenses of the formidable German dams and breach the walls that had seemed beyond reach. Remember the brilliant invention that made it possible, the working out of the precise conditions needed to make the bomb bounce across the surface to its target. Remember the extraordinary skill and courage of the air crews who delivered it, flying low over the water, under enemy fire, many at the cost of their lives. And remember the lessons the story teaches about the power of creative thinking to solve impossible problems, about the marriage of invention and execution, and about the audacity and courage that combined to achieve one of the most remarkable feats of the entire war.